Have you heard about
Jim Rohn?
Jim Rohn.
Mr. Rohn.
I quote Jim Rohn every week as a speaker.
Imagine a man whose words carried such power that they didn't just inspire people, they completely transformed millions of lives.
He said, no, Mr. Rohn, I'm telling you honestly, you could just give the money away. I grew up in Idaho, farm country. I got off to a pretty good start up in Idaho farm country, where I was raised, southwestern corner of Idaho, little community of 4,000 or 5,000 people.
Jim was not born into wealth, influence, or extraordinary opportunity. He emerged from a quiet soil of rural America, raised on a farm in Yakima during a time when hardship was not considered unusual, it was expected. His early life was marked by modest means, repetitive labor, and the invisible ceiling that traps many people into believing their circumstances are permanent.
I went to high school and graduated. I went to college for a year and a half, and I quit. Decided I was smart enough. One of my major mistakes. I should have stayed in school. But I thought, heck, I'm smart enough to get a job. And back then I thought, that was it. If you're smart enough to get a job, what else would you need? Found out later, a big mistake. A couple of years later, I met a very beautiful young lady. And I put probably my finest sales presentation on her. I promised her wealth and fame and fortune and world travel and all those good things. I said it will probably be the finest decision of your life to marry me. Well, 2 or 3 years after I'd gotten married, it didn't look like my new bride had made such a wise decision. I'm now starting to struggle. About age 25, I've got pennies in my pocket, I've got nothing in the bank, and way behind on my big mouth promises to my family, and wondering what could I do to make my life better.
At age 25, confused, broke, pitiful, earning $57, and felt sick for 2 days because he lost $10.
Just before I met Mr. Schoaf, I heard a knock at the door. I go to the door, and there's a little girl standing there about this tall selling Girl Scout cookies. And she gave me one of the finest sales presentations I've ever heard. Special deal, several flavors, this whole package of stuff, $2. And with a big smile, she very politely asked me to buy. And I wanted to. Big problem. I'm broke. I don't have $2. And to this day, I can remember the pain and the embarrassment. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I've been to college, I'm working, I'm 25, I don't have $2. And I didn't want to tell her that for some reason. So I did what I thought was next best. I lied to her. I said, hey, look, I've already bought lots of Girl Scout cookies. I've still got plenty stacked in the house, which was not true. She said, well, gosh, that's wonderful. Thank you very much. And she went away. When she left, I closed the door, and that was the day I said to myself, I don't want to live like this anymore. I've had it with lying, and I've had it with being broke. I'm never going to let this happen to me ever again.
This little act of embarrassment changed his whole life.
My good fortune was, at age 25, I met a very remarkable man. A few months after I met this unique man, his name was Mr. Schoaf, Mr. Earl Schoaf. He hired me, and I spent the next 5 years working for him.
Under Schoaf's mentorship, he began a disciplined journey of self-education. He studied communication, psychology, leadership, salesmanship, and personal responsibility.
Years ago that wrote this statement, I don't know who he was.
He centered on deliberate personal growth. Within a few short years, the man who once struggled to pay bills became a millionaire before the age of 31.
First talk I gave, I stood up, my mind sat back down. But here's the secret to my success. I stood up and did it again. Stood up and I did it again. And I did it again, and I did it again all those many years ago. I did it when I was scared, and I did it when I didn't want to, and I did it when I was ill. And I did it when it didn't work well, and I did it when they didn't appreciate it, and I didn't a lot of times when I didn't know much what I was doing. I just did it anyway. And now, all these years later, I'm asked to walk on this stage with the greatest introduction I've ever had, the greatest response and welcome I've ever had, the greatest opportunity I've ever had to touch this many lives with a mixture of words and heart and soul. I got better. I got better day by day and week by week and month by month, and I'm asking you to do the same thing until you can develop a long arm and a long reach, until you can develop influence that won't quit. Touch people next year you couldn't touch this year. Touch people now you couldn't touch before. Conduct a meeting now you couldn't conduct before. Heart and soul now mixed in there that wasn't there, missing before. I'm asking all of you to get better in spite of the winters, in spite of the downturn, the money downturn, the social downturn, the personal downturn, whatever it is. Just get stronger. Get better.